but you notice that what happened around that time, 1.5 million years ago, the river was a permanent river. So humans used to walk around that place. So humans stepped on the soil when it was still wet, and that is how it was able to be preserved until this particular time. So apart from the footprint site, other footprints and fossils have been excavated from the place. So in terms of footprints, they have found bird footprints, rhino, water birds, then you have buffaloes, elephants, and then Homo erectus, sorry. So many of these species are not easily found in Ileret at this time. So however, when you go back to 1.5 million years ago, they were found. So these finds are important because it gives us a context as to the biodiversity that existed in Ileret 1.5 million years ago and how the environment has changed over this period of time. This other site also talks about footprints and fossils. So you have all this as fossils and all this as footprints. So the environment was very different from what you have at this time. So as scientists continue to go to Ileret, one of the things we realize that an excavation site is good. It is exciting for a scientist, but it is not exciting for a local person. It's not exciting for a student. Yeah. So we asked ourselves, what would make school or education or visitors experience this area much better? So 2 years ago, one of the scientists in the museum, Dr. Purity, she got a grant from the British Council, and it is called the British Council Cultural Protection Fund. So the grant allowed us to do a number of things. So one of the things it allowed us to do is to develop an interpretation center. An interpretation center is a place where visitors can come in. They can actually see the story of Homo erectus, see the story of the excavations that have taken place in the place, and understand the place much, much better. So that is one of the things that we got the grant to do, and we're able to install an exhibition. Then the other thing we're able to do is we uncovered. So usually when the scientists discover the footprints, usually they buried them back. But we're able to uncover a section of the footprints, but developed a canopy around it. So as a visitor, you're able to come to the place and be able to see what a footprint looks like. When someone tells you, so this footprint was made 1.5 million years ago, everyone will be interested in knowing, so how does a 1.5 million year footprint look like? So as a visitor, you're able to go to that place and see the footprint. So we did those two things, but still we had not solved the problem because the interpretation center was there, but we did not have any visitors. But we understand that one of the biggest audience of museums are school groups. So we did the next best thing where we wanted to actually now tell the teachers that you have a resource that you can be able to use, which is an interpretation center and a museum within your county. We also realized that many schools in Marsabit did not take their students to any museum. Apart from the Loyangalani Desert Museum, so they hardly went to any museum. So we were going to give them this opportunity. So we did that in two ways. So one of the things we did is we did a teacher's workshop. So the photo here shows a number of teachers and community guides. So we developed for them educational programs that they can use to teach their students topics like evolution, both in biology and history, topics like support and movement. And we did interactive activities with the teachers so that they could do these programs and see how well they can implement them in school. For example, what you can see here, so this is a fossil cast we had a fossil cast of Homo erectus, and then a more primitive species. Then we have different kinds of stone tools. So the idea was them to look at the fossil skeleton and trying to find out, was this fossil skeleton, was it advanced or was it primitive? And what are the characteristics for that? So they did several of those activities. And the other one we did, so we also went to several schools and we also did some interactive activities to them. What you can see the children are doing, the children are learning how footprints are formed. Yeah. So what happens is when you walk in a place, you leave an impression. And when you leave that impression, that is what is called a footprint. But it is different from Homo erectus is because it was able to be preserved immediately, and it was preserved for 1.5 years, 1.5 million years. So what the students were doing, using plasticine and a toy, they were able to make impressions, and then we teach them how footprints are made. So we did several interactive activities with different school groups, just to tell them that evolution, number one, evolution is easy, it is understandable, and it's something that they can relate with. So one of the reasons why it's important for us to do that, especially in Marsabit, is because we need to also mentor a new generation of scientists. We need to tell these children that they can consider archaeology and paleontology and biodiversity as a career for them in future. Let me see. Yeah. So this was also in high school. So what the students were doing is they were trying to compare the skull of a modern human being ash that came and settled on top of the footprint. Yeah. So that was the second condition, and it's such a rare condition. So the volcanic ash that settled on the footprint is what enabled it to be preserved over that period of time. And also, so when the scientists come later, they're able to date the volcanic ash to 1.5 million years ago. Yeah. Yeah, but it's a very rare condition for that preservation to take place. Yeah. Yes?
One more question, please. It's not particularly about your presentation, but probably knows the answer. I've recognized during the previous session and this one that science at the National Museum of Kenya is on the top level. What is the role of the museum in establishment of World Heritage Sites and including the UNESCO? Are museum specialists are involved in this working group?
Yes, yes. And that is the Directorate of Museum Sites and Monuments. So we have a point person. So their job is, for number one, to develop dossier for World Heritage Sites that they want them to be inscribed into the UNESCO. I think the most recent one was the Gedi prehistorical site, which was inscribed a year ago.
Okay.
Yes.
And
So,
it's already in UNESCO?
pardon?
Is it already in UNESCO?
Yes, it's already in UNESCO. I think Kenya has got 8 World Heritage Sites.
Okay.
Yeah. Very little, I'm sure very little compared to other European countries. Yeah.
And who makes the management of the sites?
So all those sites are, not all of them. So the cultural, the heritage sites are under the National Museums of Kenya. But then you also have other sites like Mount Kenya, which is a World Heritage Site, but Mount Kenya is under the Kenya Wildlife Service. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Please ask.
Do they have a separate staff or not?
Who?
Those sites, or most of people working here in MIT?
No, they have, what happens, the management, so there's a director who's in charge of those museums. So then there's an assistant director who is in charge of the region. Then each of those museums has what is called a curator or a manager of the site. So the curator is the one who will supervise the day-to-day supervision of those sites.
But the financial policy is covers all.
Yes, yeah. So in terms of finances, all of them are managed from here. Yeah. Thank you.
Mine is, I saw that place is open. It's like anybody can walk in.
Yes.
So how do you prevent the animals walking in?
Yeah. It is. Originally, when the footprints were excavated, so they had a fence, but it was an acacia fence to protect the area that the excavation site is. But so 2 years ago, the community gave out that land for the development of the museum. So we have developed the interpretation center. We have also the footprint site. I think the next step will be having a sort of a perimeter fence, because locals they come with their livestock in the particular place. They come to sit in the place. So there needs to be a way to protect the place. Yeah.
And how far is it from Kubifora?
From Kubifora to Ileret, about half a day. Yeah, half a day of driving. Yes. Thank you very much.
Then that was actually insightful, it's educational. And if you have never been to
Please come.
museum sites, please find a way of talking to archaeology department. You need to go and see.
Yes.
Then you know, when they say they are not in Kenya, you can understand. Sometimes it takes 3 days or so.
Yeah. Actually, yes, it takes a very long time to get there. Yeah.
You have to make sure you don't go and come back. You stay for a month. So that the cost of travel
Yes.
is effectively justified by the amount of work you do. So the people who are in archaeology sometimes they go there and come for a month or more. You get me? So when you are going there, be ready to, including the heat.
But also the place, just to point out to those who are doing zoologies, biodiversity. So very little, in terms of biodiversity research, very little of it has been done in that particular area. So there is still a lot of space for other research, not only archaeology, paleontology, and culture. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very well done. Very well presented. So the next.
Did you take a picture? Do I have a picture?
Yes, the photographer was here. The photographer was here. Yeah, he took. Okay.
You can put it in this.
The talk by
John
John
Musina. Thank you. Mayona, wake up on this one. Yeah, put it in the put it in the nini kwanza. Yes, because it has some more.
The topic is to put apart the evidence for desolation as an important bird area to be integrated avifauna survey. Now, those of you who are in Kenya or have listened to some of the talks as he's getting his presentation ready, is that when you hear IBA, it used to be important bird area, but now they have converted it to important biodiversity area, because where the birds are, they are unique biodiversity species. If I can see, I'm talking to myself.
No, we are hearing.
We're listening to
Everybody knows that one.
No, we are hearing you.
Okay, so this is something that you need to keep in mind. If you are a young scientist and you are doing your research, you can find a way of joining some of the
Mbona hii janini yako? Kwa
or
nini?
groups that are under
Why?
Nature Kenya, which is here. And if you are invertebrates, and when they are going to count their birds, you can join them and do your research for 2-3 days. And because they keep going back to some of these areas, at least you have some data for your first degree or master's. Yeah? So be open and don't always sit in your section, even in Nigeria. I encourage your students to make sure that they visit other
Copy.
departments.
Changoja kwanza.
Because I know research funding
Yeah, that's
for young
fine.
scientists
Now open
is
it.
a big problem. So how do you grow yourself?
Why?
You can see like
Strange.
our scientists have
Oh,
joined
so downloading missing forms. Blah, blah, blah.
senior scientists. and
Okay,
they-
wachafungua tu from the external drivers. We'll do it from
Thank
there.
you. How many
Yes.
of you have gone to watch to see the posters which have been displayed? Yeah? Can you have seen this? Yeah? Please walk
Neutron
around the
Pana see. Oh yeah, iko sawa sasa. Yeah, that's fine.
Here.
There's an exhibition there, and there's something that when the main conference. So it is important that you look at those posters so you get to know the kind of science that is being done today. Thank you. We'll just finish instead of just sitting. So Dr. Musina, please, karibu.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Musina, John Musina. I'm presenting this work on behalf of my colleagues also who are named there. So that's Edson and Judy, Samuel, and Juliet King, and Richard Lambre. So we are going to talk about Suguta Valley, so we'll keep a little bit up into the north of Kenya.
Which lake is that?
Yeah, so I'll be talking about that. That's for some reason, this thing is not showing everything. I don't know why. Yeah, there's supposed to be a map there. Can we read it from the drive? For some reason we can see it from the, oh my goodness. We just close and then we, yeah. Let's open it from the drive maybe. Just go down to the drive. Type Transcend. No, that's not the drive. Go down. Transcend. Yeah, there. Open that one. Open this one, yes. Oh, it's that one, yeah. How come it doesn't show? New display. Have you stopped the time? We'll go to the next. Oh, that's good. 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 Excellent. Yeah. So this, your question, Dr. Wanja, this is Lake Logipi. So I'm going to talk about it. Strange enough, very little is known about it, but then it has a very good number of flamingos. So if you look here at this map on the left, that's the blue tip, that's the Lake Turkana. Then Suguta Valley is this one here, this area here. And at the tip, towards the northern bit, is Lake Logipi that you've just seen. And from down to top is about like 140 kilometers. And there's a river that runs through, and it culminates into Lake Logipi. That river is called Suguta River. It's quite arid there, only 300 millimeters of rain per year. And the temperatures can go all the way up to 40 degrees, ambient temperature, sometimes surface temperatures are going all the way up to 70 degrees. Now, the whole area is inhabited by the Turkana tribe. But then here, towards the southern bit is the Pokot. And then to the west, to the east, the Samburus. Now, these tribes, once in a while, they raid each other for livestock. Here, you can see the diversity of the different types of habitats in Suguta Valley. So we have the cliffs, which I'll be talking about in a moment. And then we have sand dunes. So for the Kenyans, how many Kenyans in the room knew that we have huge sand dunes like those in Kenya? Sand dunes. Sand dunes, those ones on the top right.
Are they permanent?
Yes, they are permanent sand dunes, yes. And then we have Lake Logipi. Look at how beautiful. This, when I got to Suguta Valley, and then we were just at the rim of the valley itself before we got in, we took photographs of the Suguta River glistening, and then, of course, the valley itself and the other rim on the other side. And then one of my colleagues said, this is one of the most beautiful sandscapes I've ever seen. And we all agree. Those who have visited there all agree. And then look at those flamingos. Beautiful, especially in Lake Logipi that I showed you at the north. Okay? I think we're having issues with this thing. Yeah? I just keep going. Yeah? Okay. I don't know what's happening, but yeah. So ama ufunga hizo zingine. Funga PowerPoint ndugu zangu. Nafunga tufungue. Mweka kwa desktop. Yes. So just open it from PowerPoint. No, that's not the one. Ile ya juu. Just keep going. The next one. Yeah. So there's a young man, a Turkana young man, who looked at the different types of conflicts that they are having with the Pokots and the Samburus, cattle rustling and things like those, and said that probably if he brings all these communities together and take care of the valley, then that would reduce the incidences of cattle rustling and other conflicts in the valley. So he came up with an initiative, a small CBO, community-based organization. It's called Initiative for Zuguta Valley Development. And for now, they already have 6 units and 27 staff. So this gentleman that you see here, the tall one, that's one of the directors of the initiative, and they are wearing the T-shirt of the initiative itself. So what they are doing is to try and formalize a form of biodiversity monitoring and cultural monitoring of the valley itself. So I'm going to talk about 3 things. I'm going to talk about the biodiversity surveys that we did, of course, and then I'll talk about flamingo counts that we did, and I'll finish with the vulture surveys. So this was a research that was done together with the Wildlife and Research Training Institute. And we were not only looking at birds, we were also looking at reptiles and amphibians, invertebrates, small mammals, and we also looked at the macroinvertebrates in that general area. So that's doing the mist netting together with the locals. And what we found out from the birds research is that the valley itself, that section of the valley that we were looking at, which is more or less central west, we have 81 species, and we have at least 2 threatened species, the Egyptian vulture and the hooded vulture, and a good number of 27 different types of birds that migrate. So birds that move all the way from Europe and Eastern Asia to our region. Okay? So as the second bit is the flamingo surveys. So we also counted the number of flamingos in the Lake Logipi. Now, why is this important? This is important because we all know that the other section of the other lakes in the within the Rift Valley, the water has been going up, becoming a bit more fresh, and then there's not enough food for flamingos, so they've moved to other places. For a very long time, almost close to 10 years, we had no idea where these flamingos were. And then we just came to find out that actually most of them are in Lake Logipi. So, for instance, tourists, the guides who are in tourism, they would sell Lake Nakuru as the destination to see flamingos. But you can't do that anymore because there's not any flamingos left in that lake, because the water has gone up and there's lots and lots of water birds that depend on fresh water other than the flamingos that depend on the alkaline lake. So this here is an aerial photograph from a helicopter that was done last week, and you can see how many of the big flock of the lesser flamingos in Lake Logipi. So quite important that we can recognize that little bit of lake as an important part of habitat that sustains the lesser flamingos. So we did aerial counts towards the end of December 2024. We found almost close to 700,000 lesser flamingos, close to 1,000 greater flamingos, and then almost 28,000 great white pelicans. The third bit that we did was to look at the birds of prey. These are vultures. So we went to the cliffs and we found, for the first time we documented, a colony of the Repels vultures. So for those of you who have been to Hell's Gate, maybe you've been to the cliff where the Repels vultures breed. That's one of the most important sites for this critically endangered species in Kenya. Now, this comes in as an addition to that. So this was had not been documented before up until we went out there and did it. We also saw 3 Egyptian vultures, some eagles, and kestrels. So these ones here, the Ruppel's griffon vultures. They are critically endangered. So we have a proposal now to make this, as Dr. Wanja mentioned, an important bird area, but now we want to make it a key biodiversity area because of the other types of biodiversity that we found there. But we are hoping that we can have additional surveys to look for more vulture cliffs and do a little bit more of studies on birds in Lake Logipi itself, aerial counts for flamingos. However, the challenge that we have is that it's quite expensive. So that aerial count, the data that I've just shown you, was a whopping, can someone guess how much it took? Well, the plane flew from Laikipia, went there and then came back for a day, and then they were doing transects, taking photographs, high-resolution photographs, and then subjecting that to some software and separating the dots that were flamingos, and then coming up with a verification from people who are counting. But just for that, say like 5 hours of flying a helicopter in Logipi, can someone predict the budget that how much we used?
10 million?
No.
Is it more?
No, less.
Yes.
Yes. So it was, 4 million. So it was about 1.2 million. So the aerial counts are quite expensive. But then you can see that in 10 years' time, we have cracked the secret of where the lesser flamingos are right now. We can say that a good chunk of the population of the lesser flamingos in Kenya, actually the East African region, are in Lake Logipi. So if I go back here a little bit, this one. This photograph here was taken last week. And at the same time, there was another pilot friend who was flying over Lake Natron. Lake Natron is well known for being the breeding site for flamingos. The photograph, I didn't put it, but the photograph from Lake Natron shows nothing. So there's not near, because also the Lake Natron, the water level has gone up. Yeah. So it means that Lake Logipi now is holding almost close to half of our flamingo populations in the region, the lesser flamingo in that case. We have, for people who are interested in reptiles, we have a very good population of Nile crocodiles in the Suguta River itself, as it goes. Okay? And we also actually managed to do some plant surveys. It's quite arid, and you can think about the type of plants that can actually sustain temperatures of 40 degrees C and above. They could be very special in studies of climate change mitigation and stuff. So the threats now to this place is that the proposed lapset is going to go through it. And there's also some mining concessions. You see, the Lake Logipi itself is alkaline, and it's quite hot. So the mud is good for producing these bath and wax materials for skin care and other things. So there are companies that are already eyeing that general area for those kind of mining objectives. And then we also have the KenGen has already done some very good surveys of geothermal energy there. I think they're just about to start producing it. So before this gets to the point where they can actually go there and start doing this, we thought that it would be important to give them the biodiversity bit of the valley so that we can justify some mitigation measures and they don't destroy it. So there's also the invasion of Madenge. And the other thing that we didn't expect to be a problem but is becoming a threat is that there is now these pastoralists are not moving, they are not nomadic anymore. And what that means is that there is overgrazing and then the land becomes bare, and there's erosion and things like this. Yeah. So I'll end up at that. And I want to take an opportunity to thank this. Of course, I work here at the National Museums of Kenya. We did this together with the Wildlife and Research Training Institute, and of course, the Initiative for Suguta Valley Development. And more thanks go to the Rift Valley Conservation Limited, who are the ones actually funding the project, but also funding the works of the Initiative for Suguta Valley Development. Those are some of the birds that we saw there, and those are our colleagues that we worked with when there. Thank you very much for listening.
Wow. Kenyans, how many of you have heard of Suguta Valley before? Hujasikia?
You have?
Hakuna mtu umesikia?
Yes,
That's the
yes,
only one.
yes.
Kenyans,
Yeah.
please, not all. What we associated with the accident?
Yes. Yes.
For me, it is the conflict.
Yes.
I'm actually surprised to see such beautiful
Yes.
images coming from there and such a high capacity. So please, let's stop that conflict by bringing in research activities
Yes.
so that we can have peace and conserve biodiversity. Thank you. That was a very interesting presentation. I will allow people to ask questions. Yes.
So I probably have 2 minutes for just one. So, and I think this was asked during the plenary. So most of the lakes of the Rift Valley, so the levels is rising, they're not as alkaline as they used to be. So is there a projection on what is going to happen to that lake? Because if the level of water also rises there, then it will not be very, very hospitable for flamingos.
Yeah, that's a good question. If you look at the geography of the place, we are 300 meters above sea level, and air temperatures of about 40 degrees C. You can have surface temperatures of about like 70 degrees C at some point. Now, let me show you something. Look at that evaporation rate. The evaporation rate is quite high. 3,000 to 4,000 millimeters per year. Compare it to the precipitation. So we are hoping that Lake Logipi up there will still be alkaline enough to sustain the growth of the algae that flamingos feed on. And it's a good question. I need to add that Lake Logipi itself, it's not everywhere that supports flamingos, but it's just the northwestern bit of it because there are hot springs there. And that's the reason why KenGen is interested in geothermal exploration there. So those hot springs and the fact that even if Suguta River brought in water, there would still be lots and lots of evaporation. We are hoping that the lake will maintain its alkalinity and, for that reason, create conditions for the growth of the blue-green algae that the flamingos feed on. Flamingos are very, very, very fragile because the moment the water phytochemistry changes and the food cannot grow, they have to move. And they have to keep searching for this food wherever it occurs. So we know that Lake Logipi right now is a good stopping point. We are hoping that it will stay like that for a while. But there are other sections towards the north, especially in Ethiopia, also Lake Abiyata, that are still also can sustain some good number of lesser flamingos. Yeah. Thank you.
You just mentioned something about the water level rising. And you guys, normally you have flamingos. I know water level in Lake Nakuru is rising. What's the cause of this water level rising?
Yeah, very good question again. There were 3 hypotheses. So the first hypothesis was that the water levels are rising because of the earth plates coming closer to each other and then pushing up the bottom of the lakes and then the water level going up. Then there was another hypothesis that probably it's because of sedimentation from the catchment areas and it has gone all it has made itself a thick layer under these lakes. Therefore, there's a little bit of precipitation, and then the water level goes up. And then there was a third hypothesis that, maybe just because we are getting more above normal rainfall precipitation. So right now, the answer is the third hypothesis, that there is above normal precipitation for quite some time in the catchment areas. I don't know if you noticed that in Eburu and other places, but we can see that there's lots of water coming from the rivers and then getting into these lakes, and that's the reason why the water level is rising. So there's a citation that you can actually get. This was done by a professor from the University of some Austrian University and some professors from Technical University of Kenya down here. That's what they found out, and that's the hypothesis that we are upholding. Some people don't believe us when we say so, but scientifically, that's the answer that we have for that.
But then, does it affect the flamingo positively or negatively?
Yes, so very good question again. As I mentioned, it does affect them negatively. Now, there are two species of flamingos. There's the lesser flamingo, this one here. These are lesser flamingos. See all the pink ones that you see inside the lake, those are lesser flamingos. But then you have the greater flamingos. Those ones are actually usually close to the freshwater inlets to the alkaline lake. They are taller, they are less pink, they are bigger. Now, this color that you see on these flamingos is not their feather color. It is carotenoids from the food that they feed on, the blue-green algae. So the more pink you see a lesser flamingo, the more healthier the environment in whichever it is. So there's more carotenoids from the blue-green algae, and therefore the flamingo is quite pink. Now, the algae itself is very specific. The conductivity levels at which it grows, the alkalinity, the pH levels at which it grows is very, very specific. So if you change that, it doesn't grow. There's no flamingos. Yeah, so the lake has to be quite alkaline. The conductivity has to be right for the algae to grow. And if algae grows, the flamingos come to feed on it, and they become pink, and they are nice. If you go to Lake Nakuru right now, and then you saw lesser flamingos, you'll see that they're almost white with very little pink on it, because that's a reflection of how much food there is in the water. So the answer is negatively, and that has been our worry for 10 years, and that's the reason why we had to look through going to this remote area. It's not easily accessible by car, by road. There's no road at all. So the only way that we could do it is through flying. At least we know that close to 1 million of our flamingos are there. But we still have to account for close to maybe 1 million again. Those we still don't know where they are. Maybe they're in Russia.
It's not a professional question, just for my curiosity. Is there any vertebrates, birds in particular, which color depends so much on their food?
Say it again.
Well, as I have catched up, the color of the flamingo depends on their food.
Yes.
Is there any other vertebrates or birds which depends on their food so much, and in what do they look like?
Oh, that's an ornithological question in general. Yes, that's fine. Yes. Yeah, yes. It's fine. Yes. So we have pigment colors are very common in birds. Flamingos get these pigments from food, the carotenoids from the blue-green algae that makes them pink. We have turacos. Do you know turacos? Okay. Very. It's a medium-sized bird, very beautiful. Do you have a phone?
Okay,
with internet. You just check Turaco. Then what they do is that the TURACO, they feed on the fruits that they feed on have got some particular pigments that make them quite bright green, sometimes bright carmine. Yeah. So we also have some starlings that also get this pigmentation from the food that they feed on. Yeah.
Because I recognize generally the color helps to cover and to hide, etc., but not to be so dependent on the food and so in such a big variety of being visible.
Yeah, you are right in both ways. Yes, color plays a role in camouflaging so that they can stay, like they look like the environment in which they live in. And also color is also a form of, like for males, for instance, it's a form of attraction for, it's also has got that sexual selection bit, okay? Yeah, so you're right in both ways. But then the thing is, even if you look at Turacos, is that you see that the forest Turacos, they are all more or less green, but then they have this nice carmine color on their wings. So the green is for camouflage, but then the carmine on the wing is to attract mates, especially at the breeding season. So there's different types of selection working at the same time on the same bird, yes. Yeah, and then these guys, when you look at the form of predation that you'd expect on lesser flamingos, you have African fish eagle once in a while coming in, and you have, sometimes we see hyenas trying to catch them, marabou storks trying to get birds that are sick and injured. So for this, color now plays a different role, and you can see that they are congregatory birds. So most of them are feeding in huge flocks at the same time.
I'm not sure if you will believe me or not, but in my museum in Perm, Russia, there is a pink flamingo found in 1989, so around 40 years ago, which has lost his way and just was died in close to Perm, and it's in our collection. I'm applying. I will show it to you.
Was it preserved?
What?
Was it?
It's
you can.
so it's a real object.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have, like right now, what's going on in Albania. There is some hotelier who wants to take over like some wetland. And that wetland is well known for flamingos. So it's possible that your flamingos are coming from that general area. So there are 6 species of flamingos in the world. We have those ones in Europe, we have these ones in Africa and India, and then we have those ones in the New World, in Canada and parts of South America and North America.
It's exactly the same species.
The lesser flamingo.
I will check.
Yeah. Yes. So that individual is very likely to have come from those general areas of Albania and other parts of Europe that have flamingos.
Okay, any other question? Wow. That was quite interesting for me to know that there's a place, don't link it to conflict, that there is something that we can do out there.
Yeah.
And also looking at the other biodiversity that
Yeah.
Thank you very much for opening my eyes.
Yes.
Does that mean you never landed at all?
For the biodiversity service, we did it from the ground. But for the flamingo counts, it's almost impossible to get here. So you have to do it through by flight. And just one thing to mention now that you asked the question. Helicopter tourism is quite huge here. And actually that's one of the things that we are trying to avoid, so that they don't fly very close to the flamingos, because if they fly too close to the flamingos, they fly and then they might get into problems with collision. And those are not normal tourists, very rich tourists. Because yes, because flying a helicopter, as I've shown you, for like 5 hours, is close to 1.2 million. So you can think about the kind of tourists who are going into this. They are high end. And that is one of the reasons why the initiative for Ziguta Valley Development wants to see how they can integrate the local communities into this tourism revenue, plow back, and then they can take care of the habitats in prospects of like getting something in return.
And this is the reason why I was trying to bring the question I asked earlier about ensuring that your footprints are conserved, because I believe a few years back there was that issue of death artifacts, archaeological artifacts. So it's important to find a way of having some of them properly preserved. Because the rich comes and you come with a helicopter. It's also possible for you to pick something there, go to Tanzania and take it out. Because Kenya have rules that they are quite strict, but other countries around us are not. So it's something that needs to be looked at. I would like, if there are no any other question, I would like to thank you. Although we missed quite a number of speakers, we have finished. But we are we not relate to get involved, right? I don't know whether they are giving afternoon tea. Yes. Okay. So if there is afternoon tea, go have it, so you don't leave it. But I want to thank all of you who are giving presentations, who gave presentations, but also the rest of you who sit in here, because there's nothing worse than talking to the community. It is very discouraging. So I want to thank you all, and also to thank our audiovisual team for staying on until this time. And now, I would like the Rakatuas to say their names, introduce themselves, and then we pass on the baton. Pass on the session more than I will just say just say your names. Hello. Christine Maron. Good afternoon. And the speaker is from China.
Yeah, I think I don't need to add any more than what someone just said. Just thank you for accepting the moderation. There was a really good discuss place moderation many of the things presenting another session. But that this must have been very interesting, the two talks and the nature and the adults, especially from Russia, the learning huge lessons from him. Because of the way you exhibited, the way you market your museums and all the things that you have. And I'm sure those of us who are in the national museums and touring and heritage, we've learned one or two lessons from you. And we hope you also got some lessons from us. So without further ado, I thank you, every one of you, for staying in. You know, it's discipline, and not many halls are like this. Most of the halls are fighting, but you stayed on to listen to the very last person to present, and that was very good. So I thank you, Dr. Wanja.